Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, welcome to part 2 of the seminar. And our focus now is going to be actually learning some of the skills that we talked about last time, including the pronunciation of the words, letters, words, and verses, and the various types of meters or melodic patterns in which these verses are sung, as well as some other aspects of the seminar as well. But the first thing I want to do, and not take too much time with it, but still it's important, is to talk about why study Sanskrit, to what extent, and why not. Okay. Now, as I promised you last night, the first thing I want to ask today is why not to study Sanskrit? Srila Prabhupada was often asked by his disciples whether they could go off and study Sanskrit. And Prabhupada's answer was very often, no, don't go, don't need to, no need to, or whatever explanation he gave, but the answer was often in the negative. And the question I have is why? What are the potential problems, pitfalls, or reasons not to study Sanskrit? And I want you to suggest some reasons to me. In your mind, what are the issues that are there? Practical, philosophical, devotional, anything that comes to mind. Yes?
I think Sanskrit words have different meanings depending on the meter that you read it in, or pronunciation, to the particular context. So it's very easy to concoct your own meaning and get misled.
Yes. So the potential for getting misled is significant. They often say that little knowledge is a dangerous thing, right? And if you do a little bit of reading and research on mayoclinic.com or webmd.com, it doesn't turn you into a doctor, and trying to do self-diagnosis, or worse, diagnosis on someone else, can be not only useless but also quite dangerous and problematic. So in the same way, trying to know some Sanskrit and then come up with your own interpretation, concocted meaning that has very little basis in the language or in parampara, and yet you don't realize it because you've got this much knowledge, and that can be a very dangerous thing, right? So that's the one very important problem.
So many imperialist philosophy may come up with reading too much literature, and it may contradict our basic Krishna conscious Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings.
Yes.
So we would not understand fully.
Yes. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, right, Mayavad bhashya shunile hoy sarvanash. That if we go to impersonalist philosophy, then our mind can very easily become misled, and we can develop philosophical misunderstandings and doubts. And this is very true, that it's very easy to get misled because the mind is a very cunning thing, and it can tell you that you're doing something good, but you're actually being misled. So a very important point. What else? Yes?
Sanskrit is a very structured language in the sense there's a lot of rules and regulations about Sanskrit, and sometimes one may get into the mechanics of Sanskrit and get lost and lose the essence. So there's a risk of getting into niyam agraha, or you can start looking at Prabhupada's translations word for word. Say, why did Prabhupada translate that? I know better than him. So you can make all kinds of offenses just because I took 2 years of Sanskrit and think I know Allah. There's one risk, or get, you lose the essence of the message while you're stuck in the letter of the law.
Yes. So you point to two very important things. One is that the knowledge between the essence and the detail. For someone who's not very experienced, particularly or even for someone who is very experienced, there may be this attempt to cling to details that are not actually essential to the practice of bhakti. And that clinging to those details may actually stop one or harm one in the practice of bhakti. This is called niyamagraha, where we take one little rule or one little thing and all we can do. So we're sitting in Bhagavatam class and we can't actually hear what is being said because all we can focus on is the fact that the speaker doesn't know how to pronounce the words properly, right? There's actually many devotees who I know like this, that it becomes genuinely impossible for them to properly hear because the speaker doesn't know this detail or that detail, gets this fact wrong, or this spelling wrong, or this pronunciation wrong. So there's a danger of losing the essence because of focus on the details. Often that danger is connected to the other thing that you're describing, the possibility of an offensive mentality. And that offensive mentality is often born out of the all-pervasive quality known as pride. Right? There are few things in this world that develop pride as quickly and effectively as Sanskrit. Sanskrit is called Devavarni, the language of the demigods, or the language of God. And it's a very profound, it's a very advanced language. It gives one a lot of knowledge and capability, and with that comes pride. Again and again and again we see this. Someone may be a very, very learned doctor or engineer or whatever and still be able to maintain humility. But they learn this much Sanskrit and all of a sudden there's huge, huge false pride. Something about Sanskrit does this. It has this special quality to it, this special ability to cultivate, to engender, to produce pride. And it's something we have to be very, very careful about. Because that quality of pride combined with the fact that we all have little knowledge, right, is a very dangerous combination. And it can lead to very offensive mentalities, where we start then reading Prabhupada's books or analyzing the spiritual master and going, clearly he got this translation or meaning wrong. And the reality is often the fact that we have such a narrow understanding of what Sanskrit is based on the usage of a dictionary or two dictionaries or a particular grammar book that we have, and that's all we know. And based on that, we're trying to judge someone who is incorporating not only knowledge of Sanskrit, but also the wisdom received from parampara, from Vaishnava parampara, and at the same time is producing it in a practical way for use by individuals who have no advanced knowledge of Sanskrit and so on, right? So many things the spiritual master, many things Prabhupada is trying to accomplish, and all of that we can brush by the wayside, take just a little something we find and say, this is something wrong, this is a mistake, I know so much better, right? And again, this is not a theoretical pitfall that I'm describing from a book. This is a practical reality that the mind becomes so easily swayed just by a little knowledge of Sanskrit. Just by a little knowledge of Sanskrit. So this is, I would say, one of the greatest pitfalls of learning Sanskrit is the potential for cultivating pride. And we have to go into it with our eyes open. This is not, I'm saying, just for those great pundits who have spent their lives studying Sanskrit. I mean, even if we do something as basic as learn how to recite verses nicely, just something that simple, we can very easily develop pride and a sense of, I'm so much better than all the other devotees because they don't even know what that word means, or they don't even know how to pronounce that word properly, but I do. Right? And so we see this even we see it in the lives of many people. even in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's early life. Yes, he was decorated, it says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, decorated with the ornaments of pride. He was just so magnificent. Of course it was on the Lord, so it looked very beautiful. But on us, it doesn't look so beautiful. It's like the jewel on the head of a cobra. The king cobra is called a king cobra because it has a jewel on its head. And although it's so beautiful, that jewel, what is the use of that jewel? It's worthless because no one can come close to a cobra. No one wants to come near it, right? So in the same way, all this Sanskrit learning becomes a waste. It becomes useless because it's covered, blocked by pride. And if that pride leads to offenses to Vaishnavas and offenses to Guru, then it spells the end of our spiritual life. And many, many persons in the past have lost their way in spiritual life, in Krishna consciousness, because of study of Sanskrit. So I'm saying this coming from someone who has spent most of his life studying Sanskrit, right? This is a good caution, a good warning to heed. So we said little knowledge is a dangerous thing. We said false pride is a potential problem. There was another one in the middle. We said
Impersonalism.
the potential for impersonalism and misdirected philosophies and ideas. Okay.
Niyamaka.
Hitting towards the detail rather than the generic principle, right? Losing the principle in focus on the details. Good. What else? What else is a potential problem with Sanskrit learning?
It's really not necessary. We'll be wasting so much of our time
Effort.
in learning the Sanskrit
Yes.
and forgetting our real goal of
Yes.
serving the Lord.
Exactly. It's very, very time consuming. This is the two most frequent reasons that Prabhupada used to tell his disciples not to study Sanskrit. One has to do with the potential to be misled by different impersonalist ideas, and embedded in it was this idea of pride, that you think you know more than the Guru. But then the second reason why he used to focus on this was to say because of the time factor. He said, what will you do? How will you study? Little knowledge is a dangerous thing. To get proper knowledge, not all knowledge, but a basic, decent amount, takes a minimum of 12 years of full-time work. So a child will begin at the age of 5, go to the Gurukul, the Guru's ashram, come out when he's 17 or 18 years old, fully learned in Sanskrit knowledge. Then picking up any other form of knowledge like Nyaya, logic, or any kind of scientific area. It's very easy after that if you know the language very well. But 12 years of constant memorization of sutras and grammatical laws and so on, rules. After that, then this student knows the basics of Sanskrit. Today in American colleges and universities, to get to a point where you have a basic working knowledge takes a minimum of 2 years of full-time study. And it'll be 2 of the most painful years of your life. It's just constant memorization of rules and words and ideas and so on. And Prabhupada said, what's the use you spend so much time doing this? He often said, I have translated all of these books. I have translated all of these books just so you don't have to learn Sanskrit. I've put the word for word in it and the verses in it just so you don't have to learn Sanskrit. You have it all there. And if you spend all this time, then yes, you may become distracted from your real goal, which is the cultivation of bhakti. So, the lack of time, little knowledge is a dangerous thing, the focus on detail, the possibility of cultivation of so much pride, like this, on and on it goes. The various reasons not to, the confusing other philosophies and offenses to other Vaishnavas. Sanskrit knowledge can be a very, very dangerous thing. Very dangerous thing. And like I said yesterday, I promise to give you an opportunity to leave this seminar if you want to at this point. If you want to protect, if you want to save your Krishna consciousness, this is the right time for you. Okay? And no one will hold it against you. In fact, you'll probably be regarded as a better Vaishnava than everyone who stays. So, anyone want to take up the opportunity? No? Okay, so here we go. In the dangerous territory of Sanskrit learning. So now let's do the other side. We've talked about all the dangers, and I could speak more about them if you have questions later on, but let's leave it for there at present. And now I want to ask you the opposite side of the question, which is, why should we study Sanskrit? What are the benefits of Sanskrit learning? Any suggestions in that regard? Yes.
By learning, if you know, then you can understand deeply. If your feeling is to go for bhakti, you could know from so many various, like there is commentary by 10 different authors of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes.
You could dwell into that and gain more accessibility or knowledge of Krishna if you have no pride.
Yes. So if you're aware of all these dangers, then we have to figure out how to navigate that. But the reality is that there's so much. Prabhupada said that in every word there is a treasure house of meaning. And you can go so deeply into the Shastras, into the scriptures, into these mantras that we were talking about last night, if we have at least some basic knowledge of understanding of what is actually present there. The key is to have knowledge and to recognize that it is basic knowledge. Right? That part we forget. We think we have knowledge, we have a lot of knowledge. But to recognize that my Sanskrit teacher, he was a Professor Narasimhachari, Mudumbai Narasimhachari. He was head of the Department of Vaishnavism at the University of Madras in India, and a visiting teacher at Oxford in England, where I did my doctoral work. And he used to say, he said, initially when a student starts to learn Sanskrit and get knowledge, then he says, Ahameva Pandita. I alone am a Pandit. Only me. These guys know nothing. There's actually a really nice story in the 12th canto of Bhagavatam, where the sage Yajnavalkya goes to his guru. I forget his guru's name now. But he's amongst several other students learning the Vedas. And at one point he goes to his guru and he says, Guruji, why are you wasting your time with all of these other students? They're all never going to understand anyway. Better you just focus on me. And you know what happened? His guru kicked him out of the Gurukul. Of course, Yajnavalkya was a very great sage. I mean, no, he had good reason to have pride. Sometimes pride is justified when you're actually that intelligent. It was still not good, it's still not right, but in his case it was kind of true. He was very, very great. And he went and he worshipped the sun god. He said, okay, forget it. If Guru Maharaj doesn't want to give me Vedic mantras, I'll find my own. New Vedic mantras. So he worshipped Surya Dev. And from Surya Narayan, he received his own Vedic mantras and developed a new branch of Vedic learning from that we still respect and revere. But before he left, his guru said, you have rejected my instructions, I'm kicking you out, therefore give back all of the knowledge you have received from me. So it is said that he vomited back all his knowledge that he knew. I don't know what that means in practice, but the Bhagavatam says he vomited it out. But this was all really valuable knowledge it was learning. It wasn't the regular vomit, right? It was knowledge. And so all the other disciples quickly ate it up. But because it was kind of vomit, you can't do it as a human being. It's not right. So they took the form of birds, partridges. Like pigeons, partridges. Tittira, they're called. And they ate it up. And that knowledge became the Taittiriya Upanishad. So we have the Taittiriya. It's one of the most beautiful Upanishads. Really nice. I was speaking last night at the graduation speech, the oldest graduation speech. Matradevo Bhava, Pitradevo Bhava, Acharya Dev. That's the graduation speech from the Taittiriya Upanishad, Shikshavali. So in the beginning, the student thinks, Ahameva Pandita, I alone am the Pandit, no one else. Then you learn some more, and after some more learning, the student thinks, Aham Api Pandita, I am also Pandit. They're also Pandits, and I'm also Pandit. Okay, I'm not the only one, but I'm one of them. And then only after years and years and years of learning, you realize, Aham na Pandita. I'm actually no Pandit. Right? I don't know much. He said that is the sign of wisdom. Someone who actually knows a lot but thinks he knows nothing. Right? That is a sign of wisdom. If you just think you know nothing and you actually know nothing, then that's not a sign of wisdom. It's just honesty. Still better. So the worst is when you know something and you think you know a lot, right? You know nothing, you know a little, whatever, and you think you know a lot. That's pride. Right? You know nothing, you don't think you know anything. That's still better. And the best is you know something and you don't think you know anything, right? That was Socrates said that as well. He says the oracle in Athens. This is kind of like the how would you say it? Like the oracles are like these. Astrologers who tell the future, and look into you, like in the Bhrigus they have in India. So like that in Athens, in ancient Greece. And he says, the oracle, he said, Socrates, you are the wisest man in Athens. And Socrates was really confused. He said, I don't understand why I'm the wisest man in Athens. And eventually he thought about it. He thought, the oracle cannot be wrong because this is the Devas speaking. So he realized that I am the wisest man in Athens because I am the only one who realizes that he is not wise, that he is actually a fool. That I'm the only one who recognizes it. Therefore, I'm the wisest person. So this is with that mood, right? With that mood that I have the understanding that my knowledge is limited, it's basic. If we have that mood, then yes, the scriptures, by knowing some Sanskrit, we can open up a treasure house of meaning. Every word Prabhupada said is a treasure house of meaning. And we find just how rich the scriptures are, what depth is present there. And many such examples can be given, but let's move on. What other reasons are there to study Sanskrit? What other benefits or reasons? Yes?
When you're preaching, it adds a lot of gravity and credence to your message because you're quoting the original verse and this guy really knows what he's talking. The person who's listening may have no idea, but it lends a lot of authority behind what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. So in our preaching, in our outreach work, if Prabhupada was very keen that devotees know his books very well, and in addition to knowing them, they be able to quote verses from them. Because he says, then only people will understand that we are not speaking because it's my opinion or your opinion, because this is Krishna's opinion. This is based on Shastra. Krishna says, Matir Mama, this is my view, right? This is my idea here. So that's what makes the difference, not my opinion or yours. We have to be able to quote from Shastra for that reason. And people listen when that happens, It's true, whether it's Indian audience or American audience or Russian audience, everyone listens when you quote from Shastra, when you quote from scripture. We talked about the power of mantra last time, right? So people hear it, they become affected as a result of that. And they appreciate, this person. I knew one book distributor. He would go out on the street and he would make some point and he would say, so Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that we are not this material body, we are the spirit soul. He says, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Preshaya Bhute, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinam, is the only verse he knew. But it was effective, right? Now, I'm not promoting we should do that, it's not really honest. But the point is he was looking for that effect, right? That effect is a very real one. People listen when we have actual direct access to the scriptures. Good point. What else?
It's purifying, right? Prabhupada said that even if you don't understand it, or if you mispronounce it, just trying to recite it is has spiritual purifying effect.
Yes, exactly. Many times Prabhupada says that these mantras are very purifying. He said all of Bhagavad Gita, all of Srimad Bhagavatam is mantra. He says very clearly. It's not just this mantra or that mantra. There's specific mantras in Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya and others. But he said all of it is mantra. And that means anyone who comes in contact with it, most importantly ourselves, when we chant it nicely and properly, it has a very powerful transformative effect. It purifies one, whether we understand it or not. Right? It has that purificatory possibility, and it's nice to access that. Good. What else?
And it's very sweet to hear.
Yes, and then there's the aspect of beauty,
Yes.
right? That these verses of Bhagavatam, of Bhagavad Gita, of the prayers of the various acharyas are very, very beautiful. And when you have even a little appreciation of the language, I mean the ability to actually recite it, or to understand a few words, or to unpack the meaning of parts of the verse, this becomes an access to an unending well of beauty and of joy and happiness. You can recite these verses in so many different ways and it really becomes a powerful inspiration in our Krishna consciousness. It satisfies the heart completely because everyone is looking for beauty in this world. Right? We need it. Aesthetics is a very important part of our existence. We cannot be dry all the time. We cannot just be philosophers and think in rational ways. This is not the human nature. We need emotion. And all of that can be satisfied with the verses of Bhagavatam and other scriptures. Daniel Ingalls, one of the world's greatest Sanskritists, he's now passed away at the University of Chicago, he said that the Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically the 10th canto, he said was the most beautiful piece of poetry he had ever read. Right? My Sanskrit teacher, Professor Narasimhachari, also, he said this. He said, I'm not being proud when I say that I've read all of the Vedic Shastras and the literatures. And it was true. It was just a matter of fact. He said, but of everything I've read, I've never found anything as beautiful as Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have access to this really gorgeous, wonderful well of nectar that flows, right? Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. We've got this pot of nectar here, Rasamalayam. And we want to access it as much as we can. And we can access it through translation. There's no doubt about it. But just like any kind of sweet, you want to eat it in every way, in every aspect, the top layer and the bottom layer, like a multi-layered cake, right? The icing is good, but so is the bread, the cake itself, so is the middle layer of jam, so is the bottom. Every part of it is delicious. So why leave part of it out, right? Particularly the mantras that are there.
The part is you come in touch with the person who is reciting, so you get his blessings.
Yes.
You connect to that person, like Brahma is reciting or Prahlad Maharaj is reciting.
Yes. Prabhupada says that we can take the prayers of the various devotees, any devotees whose prayers we are particularly fond of, and we can recite them as our offering to the Lord. Because we may not be capable of creating our own prayers, and when we try to, those prayers don't come out quite right and not as beautiful as we want them to. So we can take the verses of Queen Kunti or Lord Brahma or Narada Muni, or all these wonderful devotees are there, and we can make them our own and use them in our own worship of the Lord. When Govindam prayers happen, we can sing our own prayers to Krishna and this way satisfy him. So, yes, very much so. To Prabhupada's books in a much deeper way. I mean access not just to the Sanskrit, which is an obvious part, but access to his English translations and purports. One of the things you notice when Prabhupada is writing a purport, occasionally if you read the purport and you ask yourself the question, why is Prabhupada talking about this point here? Have you ever had the experience where you read a purport and it looks like a random point? Like, why here? Right? And I would say more than half the time, you can trace the reason for that particular paragraph to something in that verse that Prabhupada is commenting about. And sometimes you can't connect it directly to the translation, because say a word like dharma has multiple meanings, many meanings, right? In the translation, Prabhupada may have selected a specific meaning, like, religious principles, to translate the word dharma in the translation. But in the purport, he may be talking about a different meaning of the word dharma. And it seems totally disconnected from the translation. But if you go back to the verse itself, you realize, there's a couple purports where you notice that Prabhupada is just going through every word of the verse. First paragraph, word number 1. Second paragraph, word 2. Third paragraph, word 3, and like this. He just goes through the entire verse. Some are very obvious like that, some are less obvious, but he's doing the same thing. If you listen to Prabhupada's lectures, so often a lecture will be simply an extended and very erudite exposition on a single word from the verse that he is speaking on. And he'll start from that word and he'll go in many different directions and end up and come right back to that one word. And his entire lecture will focus on that one word. When we start to notice this about Prabhupada's books, we also become better speakers and teachers ourselves. Not just in terms of, I can quote the verse. Now that's important, we've already discussed that. But besides quoting the verse, we learn how to speak about the verse in more relevant ways. So often when we sit down to give Bhagavatam class or Bhagavad Gita class, we speak about the verse for 5 minutes and then run out of things to say. Right? And the remaining 40 minutes of the class are all my personal experiences and what Trump did last week and all of that. And we try to make some Krishna consciousness. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't mean to be dismissive. We have to give practical understandings. But often my experience is we get stuck. We don't know what more to say and how to be relevant to the verse. If we learn how to unpack the verse and break open the meanings, there's unlimited, like Prabhupada says, a treasure house of meaning. There's unlimited things we can talk about just on one word. When we hear how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur spent a month speaking about just the first verse of Bhagavatam, right? How do they do it? Well, it's spiritual Shakti and potency, but he's also going through specifically that verse in very systematic ways. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave, what was it? Atmarama verse. How many? 61, huh? 61 explanations of the Atmarama verse. I remember once in Vrindavan listening to part of Radha Govinda Maharaj's lectures, his sapta on this. He gave on 61 explanations of the Atmarama verse. It was really nice. Normally he does Bhagavad Katha, but this time he was doing this, Because if you read that section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, I would say about 60 of the 61 explanations go like this, right? Over. A couple of them you get, and then the rest are like, how is this an explanation of the verse? It was really nice, very nice. He's very, very sweet way of talking. So a couple of times he said, I don't know how this is an explanation of the verse. Something Mahaprabhu was saying, I don't know. It's very difficult. 61 different explanations. In the Chaitanya Leela, Keshav Kashmiri and Mahaprabhu's conversation, right? You can see how he defeated Keshava Kashmiri as a result of his argument with it. So we become also better speakers and better preachers as a result of our ability to unpack the verse, and even just by paying attention to the words and to the specific meanings that are present there. So those are some of the benefits of doing it. I guess the most important skill that Prabhupada wanted all of his followers to know. For most, like I said, for most adult devotees, Prabhupada discouraged them from studying Sanskrit for an extended period of time. And yet Prabhupada made it essential for Gurukula education. He said, 2 subjects are essential. He said, English and Sanskrit. You have to teach the kids these 2 subjects. Because one will, English is obviously essential. He said both of these languages will help them to better understand the scriptures. So he said this is the basis of their Krishna consciousness, English and Sanskrit. So he made it essential, required curriculum for Gurukuls, but for adults, he said too much time. You don't have that much time. And the memory is generally not so good as we grow older and that kind of thing. So Prabhupada said, no need. But there's one thing that he wanted all of his devotees and followers to know. and that is proper pronunciation and recitation of the verses and mantras. In fact, he specifically encouraged Pradyumna Prabhu to go from temple to temple, teaching devotees how to recite verses nicely. He said, this is something I have wanted to do. And in several occasions you can hear, so you can read these transcripts. He actually discusses, he talks about how you can, he actually trains the devotees during Bhagavatam class. So he was in Japan once, I think, and he spent a full hour of the Bhagavatam class, or at least 30 minutes, going from one devotee to another and teaching them how to properly pronounce those verses. In fact, this is why he instituted the system of repetition during Bhagavatam class. You know how one person, the leader reads the verse and everyone repeats 3 times, and then everyone in the audience, or some people, get an opportunity to recite the verses, and everyone repeats. The reason he did that was that so every devotee could practice the pronunciation and eventually memorize the verse. Right? That was his idea. It was his goal behind it. He was very keen on this point. And he was keen for good reasons, for very good reasons. One is the power of mantras that Nilamani Prabhu was saying. It has a purifying effect on us if we chant it nicely and beautifully. But also it's the fact that Krishna is pleased by it. Right? Krishna is pleased when we make an effort to read and speak nicely what he has given us. If we show some value to it. Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. And we take the opportunity to hear it and recite it and speak it nicely. Krishna is very pleased by that, right? He becomes happy. Now, on this point, Krishna's pleasure, one thing to keep in mind is that none of this is necessary for our Krishna consciousness. Without knowing any Sanskrit and by horribly mispronouncing the verses, can we go back to Godhead?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Prabhupada was very clear about that point. Very clear. Why? Because he said, Bhavagrahi Janardana. That Krishna, he's Bhavagrahi. He accepts our mood, our feeling. He knows, oh, this person is calling for me. Prabhupada used to say, just like when a child calls for the mother or for the father. They may do it in broken language. But the parents know, oh, the child is calling me. And in fact, that broken knowledge becomes even sweeter, that broken language becomes sweeter for the parents. Oh, look at how cutely he's trying to say this, isn't it? So when the devotee, one time, Jayananda Prabhu, who was the great Acharya of Rath Yatras. So he's the only saint that Prabhupada made in ISKCON. After he passed away, Prabhupada said we have to celebrate his disappearance day. We have to observe it. So he canonized him as a saint in ISKCON. And one time, Tamal Krishnamaj speaks about this in his Servant of the Servant. One time, Jayananda Prabhu came to Prabhupada's room and said, Prabhupada, I'm having a lot of trouble reading these verses. And Prabhupada said, don't worry, I'll help you. And he said, now read this line. And Jayananda Prabhu read, and Prabhupada corrected this way, no, like this, try again. And then again he read, again he corrected. And he tried like this for several minutes. And finally Prabhupada sat back and started laughing and said, it is hopeless. It is hopeless. He said, but no matter, Bhavagrahi Jat. Krishna understands where is your heart. What are you trying to say? He knows. I don't remember the full verse.
It's Chaitanya Bhagavat. Murkho vadati Vishnaya, Viro vadati Vishnave. Something, Bhavagrahi Janardana.
Yes. Murkho vadati Vishnaya. So, like Krishnaya Namaha. So people often say for Vishnu, Vishnaya Namaha. But Vishnaya is the wrong form. You can do Krishna ends in A, so you can do Krishnaya Namaha. But Vishnu ends in U, so you cannot do Vishnaya Namaha. You have to do Vishnave Namaha. Right? So Murkho vadati Vishnaya. Dhiro vadati Vishnave. So the intelligent person says Vishnave, the fool says Vishnaya. But it doesn't matter. Bhavagrahi Janardana. Vishnu understands this person is calling me. Whether he says Om Vishnaya Namaha or Om. So that's Krishna's mood. Right? At the same time, we have to think from Krishna's perspective. When the child babbles, it's very cute. But as he grows up, the parents expect that he or she should start speaking properly and learn how to. If we can manage, if we can do it, why not? Why not? As we become mature as devotees, why not try to recite these verses nicely, given the fact that Krishna has given them to us? Then there will be great effect, Prabhupada said, great effect of transcendental sound vibration, which is what we talked about yesterday. So those are some of the reasons why it's very helpful as devotees to have enough knowledge that we can accomplish these things. And you might ask, well, how much is enough? How much is enough? Because, like we said, the ocean of knowledge is endless, and the more you learn, the more you realize, aham na pandita. So how do you know how much is enough? And the gauge for us is to ask ourselves, well, what is actually useful for my service to Krishna? We should learn to that extent, we should make endeavor to that extent as is useful for our practice of bhakti, that is useful for our service to Krishna. For some devotees, it may be very useful to study a lot. For others, it may be useful just to know how to recite the verses enough so they can lead Bhagavatam class properly. For others, it may mean knowing a little bit more than that, right? We all have to find our place, our balance. Our goal in this seminar is to give what Prabhupada describes are the minimum, are the basics that pretty much every devotee should attempt to do. If we are not able to, then like I gave with Ajayananda Prabhu's story, it's okay, no problem. But if we are able to, Prabhupada said this is good, right? This much is good. And for someone for whom more is useful, hopefully this will whet the appetite so that they can go on and study more. And we can discuss that on an individual basis for how you can study more. There's very nice books out there and methods to do that. But we have to ask ourselves, what is actually useful for my service? And go to that extent. That's the general principle with the cultivation of any form of knowledge in Krishna consciousness, is that knowledge, when you try to accumulate too much, it becomes atyahara, it becomes too much collection, right? Just like over-collection of money, or over-collection of land or space or any kind of material resource, beyond what is useful becomes an impediment on the path of bhakti. To the extent that it's useful, it's helpful, it's very good. So knowledge is the same thing. Knowledge is a vastu, it's an object. And we have to gather it to the extent that it's useful for our service, and to beyond that not be greedy for more and more and more. Because knowledge, frankly, knowledge is more enticing and pleasurable and dangerous than money is. Money is very innocent compared to the dangers present behind knowledge, the cultivation of knowledge. So that's the idea, that's the purpose behind study. And Prabhupada said in all of these classes of Sanskrit that he encouraged devotees to give and to take. He said, but our goal is ultimately to become devotees. Therefore, make sure, he tells Pradyumna Prabhu, he says, make sure these classes begin and end with kirtan every time. He says that is important, so that we don't lose our focus on what is the purpose behind it. So we began with kirtan, and then there's going to be evening arati, so we're okay for this class. Yeah. But that was Prabhupada's idea behind it. So we've seen why not to study Sanskrit. Okay, we've discussed why we should study Sanskrit. We've tried to understand what is the balance between the two. Okay, and now we'll get into some of the practical skills that we're talking about, and this flip chart has appeared just in time for that purpose. But before we go on, let me ask, does anyone have any questions so far in the theoretical basis that we've built? The cautionary tales and the encouraging tales that we've told. Any questions or comments?
I just want to clarify that you just said that we should study as much as one can take, or
as much as is useful.
As much as is useful. How much should we study Prabhupada's book? Like obviously Prabhupada wrote so many books and it's meant for us to study. So in that light, if you'd like to say something about it.
With Prabhupada's books, all of it we should study as thoroughly as possible. But take it gradually. I mean, we don't have to study all of it today, but it's a lifetime project. But Prabhupada's books, there's no atyahara, because Prabhupada, as our spiritual master, he defined his books as the minimum for our cultivation of knowledge. Knowledge is essential for the practice of bhakti. Unless we know who it is we're trying to worship and love, how can we love that person, right? So knowledge is, sambandha gyan is essential for the practice of bhakti. So Prabhupada made his books the foundation, the minimum. He said, all of my disciples should study these books. He said many times, I'm not writing these simply for distribution. I'm writing them so you can study. And so that is not atyahara. Now beyond that, then we have to ask ourselves the question, well, what is useful for my service?
Beyond that means outside what Prabhupada has written.
Yes. It's not rejected. It's not blanket encouragement. It's based on what is useful, when, and for what purpose. Then we have to gauge accordingly.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
This Bhavagraya Janardana concept, right? So sometimes we try to overuse it, not only in the Sanskrit language or something, but whether it's a deity worship, cooking, or, so that might lead to more laziness and maybe complacency. So where do we balance that, Bhavagraya Janardana concept?
Yes. So there's the really nice story of Sanatana Goswami, when he became, he took a vow to do Govardhan Parikrama every day. Sanatana Goswami, yes. Every day he said, Govardhan Parikrama you will do. And he did, and he struggled and struggled and struggled. And finally, Krishna was not able to see his struggle anymore. And he came and he brought a big Govardhan Shila and stood on it and played his flute, leaving the impression of his feet. And he said, now, Baba, you take this and do Parikrama. And this will be sufficient 7 times, this Govardhan Parikrama. Right? So, the point being that, number one, we have to be honest with ourselves, right? When am I trying to be lazy, find a shortcut, give less than 100% to Krishna? And when am I actually doing this because there's bhava inside and I'm unable to do any better? So we have to ask ourselves that question. When is it that I actually am so sick I cannot wake up and take care of the deities? And when is it that I just want to stay in bed a little longer and therefore I'm doing Mangalarti Bhava in my heart as I sleep, right? This is my alarm clock is Sansara Dava Nalalida Loka. As I'm bathing, my Mangalarti is done, right? So we have to ask ourselves, when is it Bhava and when is it actually because I'm sick or for Sankirtan purposes? Yes, sometimes the Sankirtan morning program is very fast, it goes 15 minutes, the whole thing is done. All the prayers and everything, because you have to get out by a before you have to head out. So, when is it a practical necessity? And you're asking Krishna, please accept the best I can, right? When can I only offer one handful of broken chipped rice, because that is all I have to offer? And when is it that I'm offering this because I don't want to give anything better to Krishna, right? And I'd much rather eat out myself at some fine restaurant, and so when I come home all I want to give to Krishna is some chipped rice. Right? So we have to be honest with ourselves and say, when is it actually bhava and when is it when are we trying to make excuses and find shortcuts, because we can't cheat Krishna. Krishna knows what's in our heart and he knows the truth, and so there's no point in trying to cheat ourselves to fool ourselves. We can fool others, but we can't fool Krishna with it. We have to be honest about this, and if we're not honest, then we ask some other devotees to keep us honest, and they will. They'll help us know when we're trying to weasel our way out of something. Anything else? Okay, so let's move on now to the practical side. Now, if someone will be so kind, Divinam Prabhu, would you mind distributing some of these flyers? So I have a handout. Yes, so the whole stack there, it's the same, it's all the same thing. Yeah. So it should be stapled. So don't panic if you don't get a copy, but the main thing is everyone should be able to see one in front of them. Okay. Before they. I'll tell you what to look at when. Okay. So don't start reading it immediately. I'll tell you. I'll point out exactly what is relevant at what time. Okay. And then you can, like I said, you can take it home. If you don't get a copy, I'll email it to you. So, proper pronunciation, okay, that's what we're going to start with. And that's really crucial, it's very essential. Improper pronunciation can be downright dangerous. There's the story of Tvashta and Indra in Srimad Bhagavatam. Tvashta was actually a sage whose son was killed by Indra. And why he was killed by Indra is a long story we can't get into now. But Tvashta was doing a fire sacrifice to kill Indra. And at the moment of the Purna Ahuti, at the moment when you actually offer everything into the fire and state the wish for why you're doing the sacrifice, he pronounced his desire, which was Indra Shatro Vivardhasva. Indra Shatru means killer of Indra. Indra Shatru, killer. Killer of Indra, Vivardhasva. It was arise, grow out of the fire. Indra Shatru Vivardhasva. Or so he thought, he said. Now the problem is with Indra Shatru, depending on where you put the pitch, the accent. We talked about this yesterday. How Vedic speaking has multiple pitches, right? Depending on where you put the pitch, Indra Shatru can mean killer of Indra or he who is killed by Indra. And he put the accent in the wrong place. And he ended up saying, "O you who will be killed by Indra, arise." So he produced the big, dangerous looking demon Vritrasura with red hair and fangs and who had a heart made of gold. And was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and eventually was destined to be killed by Indra. And so he fought with Indra, and it's a really nice story. And at the end, he's stronger than Indra. At the end, he encourages Indra to kill him. He says, "Look, you're actually meant to kill me. That's what was said in the sacrifice. It's destined to happen. Might as well do it. I'm heading back to Godhead. So let's both of us get this over with, right? You take the throne, I go back to Godhead. We're all good." And he does this, right? So he got the opposite effect by mispronunciation. And we end up saying all kinds of nonsense things because of mispronunciation. We should not use Bhavagrahi Janardana as an excuse to say wrong things. I don't think there's anyone in this room who is not able to do at least basic pronunciation correctly and nicely. There's the first page that I've given you here is a Vyas Puja offering by Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. And he talks about this very nicely, something that he sees as a pervasive problem in the most basic of prayers that we offer. Every devotee is taught this pranam mantra for Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste. So the majority of speakers say various versions of Saraswate Devi. It's Saraswati Devi, right, is a very common one. Namaste Saraswati Devi. As if we're offering this prayer to Goddess Saraswati. But we're not offering to her. I mean, there's a nice prayer in Bhagavatam for her also. We chant before we recite Srimad Bhagavatam, right? But this is not it. This is to Guru. And the Saraswati that is being spoken about here is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And his disciple is Sarasvata, not Saraswati, Sarasvata. Just like Vasudev's son is Vasudev. Kunti's son is Kaunteya. So Saraswati's son or disciple is Sarasvata. And he is our Guru Dev. Short is Dev. So we're saying Deve, not Devi. So this is for Prabhupada, Saraswati Deve. And then Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya, Paskatya. So many variations are there. Paschatya Deshatarine. When you sing this mantra in Kirtan, you'll hear 100 variations to Paschatya. Paschatya means Western countries. So this is our most basic prayer to Srila Prabhupada. And we practice it for years. And it's really worthwhile trying to figure out how to pronounce it. Otherwise, we're spending all that time offering our obeisances to the wrong person. There's nothing wrong with Goddess Saraswati. She's wonderful. But we are thinking we're offering to Prabhupada, right? Maybe we're not thinking anything. That's the other thing. Is we have to actually mean what we chant, right? This is very crucial. We have to chant with meaning. And Prabhupada says, this is why he said when we offer obeisances, then we should chant the Guru Pranam mantra loud enough where the spiritual master can hear it. Not because it boosts the Guru's ego, but because it is more likely that we might actually hear it ourselves and think about what we're saying. Otherwise, we get down to the Pranam and that's it, right? And what did we say? Guru doesn't know, we don't know, we have no idea, right? But something happened down there. So we do it consciously. And the first step in doing it consciously is to pronounce it so that we actually, the first thing to understand something you're reading is to actually read it. If you're eating words in between, you're changing what you're reading, how can you understand what's being said, right? First you have to know what is being said. So the first step to knowing good meaning is to know what's actually there. And the Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra is the basic. One of my favorite examples in this regard comes from an example that His Holiness Lokanath Swami gives in this book called Sanskrit Ucharanam. Right? Very nice work. And where he gives kind of basic principles of pronunciation for devotees. And this is an issue that Prabhupada dealt with in his own time, where devotees, when you're singing Bengali, so one of the greatest ways to sound Bengali is if you turn everything into O, right? So, bhojon, so then we think, I'm Bengali, Kyuton, like that. So if devotees like to do that in Guru Vandana prayers, right? And Guru, they were doing Goru. Goru, Charana, like that. And not knowing the principle behind it, and Prabhupada would not like it, because Goru means cow. So he said, why are you calling the spiritual master a cow? Saying Goru, Charana, Padma, the lotus feet of the cow. But what's worse, then you get to the near the end. Haha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More. So devotees, again to be Bengali, often we do Podo Choya. Now, the word is Chaya. Chaya. You can do O when it's short A, and that only in some short A's, not all A's become O's. There's 3 different sounds, A, O, and O. And all 3 can be made with the letter A in Bengali. Bengali is very difficult in pronunciation-wise, because there's no clear correspondence between what you read and how you say it, unlike Sanskrit. So, but when it's A, you have to say Chaya. Okay? So Chaya means Pada Chaya. Pada means feet. Chaya means shade, shelter. Right? But Choya, if you do, means 6. Pada means feet. Haha Prabhu Korodoya. O Lord, have mercy on me. Deho more pada chaya. Please give me 6 feet. So, oh, you spiritual master, oh, you wonderful cow, who have 4 feet, give me 6. What are we singing? What are we singing? So, another common problem is samsara davana lalidha loka tranaya karunya ghana ghanatvam praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya vande. 75% of the people say guru. Vande guru shri charana. It is guru. It's an O. O-H. Guru shri. That little difference is crucial because guru is in the subject case. It's the when you do it guru, it means guru is doing the activity in the line. Guru means the guru is the object or the possessor of the activity. So I offer obeisances. If you say guru, then essentially what you're saying is I, the guru, offer obeisances. Which is of course exactly the opposite of the meaning. Where if you say guru, then it means I offer obeisances to the lotus feet of the guru. So simple things like that, we can twist the meaning. I mean, frankly speaking, if this was Tvashta's time, we would all be in a huge mess. Right? If we would all be like doing things horribly and get things really bad. Fortunately, it's not Vedic sacrifice, and so we get away with a lot of that. And Prabhupada used to tolerate, and Krishna, Gaur Nitai tolerate, and like that. But like I said, why do it like that? First thing is we figure out what it actually says and how to pronounce it. Then we understand what does it actually mean. When I'm actually singing those prayers every morning, what do they mean? What's actually there? And then we can try to chant with some meaning, as if Krishna is there, as if we're actually offering. The Guru Vashtaka prayers in the morning are some of the deepest prayers that we actually chant. They're so full of meaning and so intimate and so beautiful, those prayers. And it's like the biggest treat for someone who bothers to wake up 4:30 in the morning to get to Mangalarti. This is the reward, to be able to sing those prayers, because they're such wonderful meditative prayers. And every word is full of meaning in the different ways that we're worshiping Krishna through assisting the spiritual master there. It gives you a sense of mission for the whole day, for the rest of the day. So we can do it. The same thing with Tulsi prayers, right? The Tulsi prayers are actually the most advanced, deepest prayers that we sing on a regular basis. Sometimes people say that, oh, Prabhupada didn't give us the deep bhava bhakti, gopi bhava, he didn't give us. But if you see what we actually sing every single day in Tulsi prayers, Sakhir Anugato Koro, this is like really advanced stuff, right? Really advanced stuff. But again, we usually don't think about what we're chanting. We're doing it mechanically and focused on other things. So proper pronunciation for that reason is crucial. There are many such examples I can give. Gadhadhara. So Gadha means donkey. So a holder of the donkey. So this is horrible things that we Ramayana. This is not so much an Indian thing, but Ramayana means the airplane of Rama instead of the story of Lord Rama. Ramayana makes the story of Rama. Ramayana means his car, his vehicle.
Those are yawn during Ramayana.
So many things are there. We can, but our purpose is not to criticize, but to improve. So let's start then with the basics, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the basics because we don't have time. Plus, most people in this audience are Indians, and so the basic alphabet is going to be familiar with them. But I want to point out that the Sanskrit alphabet is something extraordinary. It's something very, very special. The scholar Max Muller, who was one of the first British scholars of Sanskrit, he was absolutely stunned. The first British Indologists were stunned when they encountered the Sanskrit alphabet, because it is the only ancient alphabet that is organized in a logical and linguistically sensible way. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. This alphabet has no logical sequence whatsoever. Why B comes after A and why C comes after B makes absolutely no sense. The Sanskrit alphabet is special for a couple of reasons. One is that every letter is accorded a single sound. Right? This is crucial. It's something that is a mark of Sanskrit. It's a mark of a few other languages as well. But languages over time tend to lose that. So Bengali starts to lose that, for example. Multiple sounds are associated with one letter has multiples like that. But Sanskrit, one letter, one sound. This is very important because it means if you know how to pronounce every letter, then you can pronounce anything. Right? The fact that it's, oh, I can't pronounce this, it's too complicated, is a myth. If you just go at it letter by letter, you can pronounce it. Right? That's all it takes. Because every letter, one sound. There's no silent sounds. There's no, endings that you don't know. There's no rules for, C before I becomes sa and like that. None of that happens. Okay. So, for that reason, it's very useful. But the more important thing is that the letters of the alphabet are all scientifically organized based on where the sound is pronounced in the mouth and what quality that sound has. Where to go? So, if you flip 2 pages, 2 sheets, and come to this copy of a book I have, it's marked pages 2 and 3 at the top. On the left side, 1.6, it says. You see those columns, those paragraph numbers? Those are the vowels, and 1.10 you have the consonants. Left to right. It's 2 pages 2 and 3. Everyone have it? Yeah? Okay. So this is the alphabet written in English letters. Now, before anyone gets too worried about the fact that we're doing this in English letters, Roman letters, one thing to keep in mind is that the Devanagari alphabet is actually a very recent alphabet. It's not an ancient alphabet. What is ancient are the sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet. Ga, ka, ga, ka. Those go back thousands and thousands of years. But the actual writing is very recent. The writing keeps changing. Remember what we said yesterday? The Vedas, ancient Vedic rishis were not considered with the writing. We're not worried about the writing at all. The script keeps changing from ancient Brahmi. Throughout history, people in every region of India have used their own scripts to represent the language. In Bengal, Bengalis have always used the Bengali script to write Sanskrit. Gujaratis have always used the Gujarati script. The South Tamilians have always used the Tamil script, Telugu, like that. It goes on and on and on. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing embarrassing using the Roman script. Now, the speakers of Sanskrit are living in Roman language alphabet places derived from Latin and Greek. This alphabet is perfectly fine to use. So it's the sounds that are powerful, that are important. And Jiva Goswami, he says, Narayanad udbhutoyam varnakramaha. The order of letters here in the Sanskrit alphabet come directly from Lord Narayana. This is very important, and once you see why they're organized, how they're organized, you'll see why he says this. It's actually very profound, the organization. The greatest Sanskrit grammarian of all time was Panini. He lived around 500 BCE. His grammatical system was so impressive that there's yet to be a grammarian who has matched that level of grammatical proficiency and beauty. And this is not just me speaking. Any linguist will agree to this. Did you know that the beginning of Sanskrit, the discovery of Sanskrit by the Western world, moved the science of linguistics by thousands of years in one leap? What the types of things that were discovered in the West, discovered just 200, 300 years ago, Panini was speaking about 2,500 years ago. And one of the most important of these was the order of the alphabet. Now, Panini actually changes the orders for his purpose. He gives a different order because it's useful for his grammatical rules. He puts all the nasal sounds together, all the other sounds together. So Jiva Goswami, he rejects that. And he starts off by saying, Narayana udbhutoyam varnakrama. The order of letters comes from Lord Narayana. I'm not going to mess with it. And here's why. Okay? So first you've got all the vowels. A, I, U, Ri, L, E, I, O, Au. Okay? And these sounds are coming from Lord Narayana, they're transcendental. Okay? So we might as well get the benefit of doing it and go back to some old memories from school in India. So please repeat after me. Ah. I. U. Ri. Ri. U. A. I. O. Au. Feels like school, no? So,
When in Rome.
yes. So the first 10 have a pattern to it. Short, long. I, u, ri, ri, u. That 10th one is not actually written there because it's a theoretical letter. It never actually occurs in Sanskrit. So that's why this author has kind of left it out, because you're not going to see it. It's the long, full sound. Jiva Goswami calls all the vowels, he calls Sarveshwara, which means the lords of everything, the king of everything. They're independent, and the reason is the definition of a vowel, or swara, is a sound that can be made without any other sound. Just like the letter a, you can say no problem, right? But if you try the letter k, ga, without the just ga, what happens? Nothing comes out, right? Ba without is, you can't, right? It's gone. So these are independent sounds. Therefore he calls them Sarveshwara. Krishna, that is, Lord of everything. Swara, Sarveshwara. Jiva Goswami in his grammar, he changes everything into names of Krishna. Because this is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to teach Sanskrit. You know what was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before he joined the Hare Krishna movement?
Teacher.
What kind of teacher?
Grammar.
Sanskrit grammar teacher. Right? That was his job. And then, like so many devotees, he met the Hare Krishna, someone gave him Bhagavad Gita as it is, his life changed and he became a devotee. And he started dancing on street corners. This was Mahaprabhu's story, except it happened through Ishwarapuri. And so before that, he was a Sanskrit teacher, and all of Navadvip would quake when they see Mahaprabhu. He was that good. The great Pandits would cross the street when they saw him coming from the other side. His frequent pastime was to go and debate with other scholars in Navadvip and present powerful arguments that defeated completely their ideas, right? He would tell them to challenge, present their ideas, he would destroy those ideas. That in itself is insulting, right? Because these scholars were like 3 times his age. But then, just to add further insult to that, he would then turn around and defeat his own arguments and say, actually my arguments were useless. See, these are the flaws with my own argument. So he would not only show that their arguments were useless, but the fact that they could not see the flaws in his own argument. And then he would turn around and for a 3rd time re-establish his arguments based on better reasoning. Like this, he used to enjoy all these leelas early times. Then he met Ishwarapuri, and when he came back, he became totally transformed. And he began teaching everything as Krishna. So someone would ask him, what is the meaning of the different letters? He said, all the letters are Krishna, mean Krishna only. What is the purpose of this form, this grammatical form? He said, it is all Krishna's mercy. And all his students got very frustrated after that. So then his guru, Gangadas Pandit, he came to him and he said, look, don't embarrass me. I'm your teacher. Teach them properly. Your Krishna consciousness is good, but do your job properly. So Mahaprabhu said, okay, no, don't worry, I'll do it. And he again started to focus. But his goal was somehow by reading Sanskrit, let them become devotees. And so Jiva Goswami in his Harinamamrita Vyakaran, he starts off by saying, all those whose throats have become dry in the desert of Sanskrit knowledge, all these boring forms and rupas and so on, they will find some nectar in this Sanskrit grammar because everything is named after Krishna. So the vowels he names Sarveshwara. The consonants ka, kha, ga, gha are dependent on the vowels for pronunciation. Therefore he calls them Vishnu Jana. Vishnu Jana means Vaishnava. Just like the Vaishnavas are dependent on the Lord, so the consonants are all dependent upon the vowels. There's all these vowels are there. The first 10 go in a specific pair, short and long. And a, and e, and u, like that, right? The first 10, short, long, he calls them the Dashavatara. Okay? The short ones, a, e, u, ri, and u, are called what? Can you guess? Vaman. They're the short ones. And the longer versions of the same one are called Trivikrama. When Vamana is small, then he becomes big. He becomes Trivikrama. Like this, he gives so many nice examples, names for all of these. Now, the organization of the letters, if you go to 1.10, the consonants, ka, ka, ga, ka, nga, ja, cha, ja, cha, nya, all of that. These are based on where you are pronouncing them in the mouth. The first row, okay, now keep in mind when I mean row, I mean across, column means down, okay? So if you look at the first row, those are kantyas, or pronounced in the throat, gutturals. Ga, kha, ga, gha, nga, all in the back. The talavyas are palatals, they're further forward in the mouth. Cha, cha, ja, cha, nya, okay? The third are murdhanyas, they're cerebrals or retroflex. The term retroflex is useful because that's what the tongue does. The tongue pulls back, retro, and it flexes. It hits the roof of the mouth. Da, ka, da, ga, na. Okay? And then the dentals, you're further out against the teeth. Da, ta, da, ta, na. And then the labials are with the lips furthest out. Ba, pa, ba, pa, ma. Okay? So based on the location of the tongue in the mouth, you've got the different rows. Now the different columns are also logically organized. Okay? There are two things that the columns offer variation in. Voice and aspiration. Aspiration is the easier one to explain. Aspiration is when you add a h sound to the letter. So the difference between g and g, or ch and ch, right? So both in the same place in the mouth. If you notice what your tongue is doing, ch, ch, same place exactly, right? But one has air. Ch should have no air. Ch, you should feel a pop of air in front of your mouth. Ch, ch, right? That's aspiration. The other is voice, okay? And voice is a vibration of the vocal cords down here. So that's the difference between g and g. Notice when you pronounce g and g, does the tongue change the place in the mouth? Location. Same location, right? Does one have more air than the other? G, g. No. Same air quality. What is different is the vibration of the vocal cords. With the g, there's a deeper vibration of the vocal cords. With the g, there's less vibration of the vocal cords. G, g. Or j, j. Same thing. So the columns are based on two things, voice and aspiration. And those are represented in the table with a V and an A. V minus means no voice. A minus means no aspiration. V plus means aspiration is there. A plus means, V plus means voice is there. A plus means aspiration is there. So the first column, ka, cha, ta, ta, pa, is no voice, no aspiration. The second column is no voice, but it has aspiration. Ka, cha, ta, ta, pa. And then the third one has voice, but no aspiration. The fourth one has voice and aspiration. And the last one is a separate category. It's a nasal. It's still pronounced in the appropriate place in the mouth, but it's done through the nose rather than using the tongue. Okay? And nyamalarnanam, the nasals. So the whole thing is super scientifically arranged. I mean, this is a huge accomplishment in the science of language. I cannot I cannot emphasize enough how much of a shock this was when people discovered it. Most of the people here are already speakers of Indian languages. I'm not going to spend much time talking about how to pronounce these letters. There's a couple things I want to mention though, which is to say that some of these sounds are present in English and other sounds are not present in English. There are sounds in English, some that Sanskrit has and some that Sanskrit doesn't have. It means not all sounds are represented here and not all sounds are found in English. Each language has its different range of sound. So, for example, the English T sound, like top, that T sound is neither the dental T nor the retroflex T. It's neither the nor da. It's neither one. Da is too far back for the English top, and the da is too far forward. So, when Indians learn English and they're forced to choose between the two, you have to choose, right? Because you're not used to saying English ta. Which one do you choose?
The retro.
The back one. You don't want to say top.
Yeah.
So you say top. So that sound isn't exactly present, okay? That's one thing. The final column, so not the final column, the voiced and aspirated column, ga, ja, da, da, pa. These sounds are not present in English at all, okay? Just not present. The first column even, ga, ja, da, da, pa, are never present in English on an initial position at the beginning of a word. So think about this. Say the word P-O-T in an American accent. Pot. Pot. Okay. Pot. P-O-T. That P sound is a P-H sound. Pot. Put your hand in front of your mouth. You'll feel it. Pot. Right? That's the sound ba is not present in the initial position in English. So you would have to say pot. Pot. Right? Without the P. But you can't do that in English. You do have the pa sound at the end of words. So if you flip it around, say top, top. Now no air. Okay? So the first column can be tough if it's at the beginning of words for American English speakers. The last column, or the second to last column, is never present at all. And then the final thing to keep in mind is that the vowels. Sanskrit has the first 10 are pure vowel sounds. They're not mixed. They're not diphthongs. So, like the English sound A in ate, A-T-E, I ate the cake. That A sound is two sounds put together. Listen carefully. Ate. What are the two sounds present? A and E. A and E. Ate. Vowel sounds. That A sound is two letters. In Sanskrit, you have pure vowel sounds, except for a couple. That A sound is a pure sound. A, not A. Not ate, but A. Okay? So when you say A-T-E in Sanskrit, then you have to, that first one has to be a pure vowel sound. The T you have to turn into a retroflex sound. So ate becomes ate. I ate the cake. Right? One of the great benefits of learning good Sanskrit pronunciation is that you can imitate an Indian accent very well. This is not attractive to this audience, but when I teach Sanskrit for my American students, this is a great bonus for them because they love the Indian accent. So if you learn Sanskrit, you know what to do. I ate the cake. You can do it because you purify the A sound, not I ate the cake. I ate, and then you have to choose the retroflex. I ate the cake. So like that. So there's differences in sounds. Now Sanskrit has some sounds that, English has some sounds that Sanskrit does not. What's an example of that? What sound does English have that Sanskrit doesn't?
Z.
Z. Right? Z is not there. Good. What else?
R.
Well, the R is different. The English R, the R is the most difficult letter, globally speaking, to pronounce. The American R is very different than the British R, right? Is further forward, the British R. The American R is really far back. The furthest R back is the German R. The German R is the uvular R. The uvula, you know what the uvula is? If you open your mouth, and then there's a thing hanging down below. So that's the uvula. So you have to shake it. You have to shake it. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Japanese R is almost an L sound. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. R is the most difficult. In British, R is almost often silent. Keith Ward. Ward will be Ward, right? It's very, very subtle R. So in Sanskrit, it's more or less like the Spanish R. It's further forward, it's slightly rolled. Ra, ra sound. So R is very, very different. It has the R sound. In fact, it has two R sounds, but it's different. But another sound that Sanskrit does not have is fa, right? Fa. Anytime you hear fal, this is not a Sanskrit word. Phala is, but not fa. Fa is an introduction from Persian. Similarly, Sanskrit has no a sound. So cat, you cannot say that in Sanskrit. You have to say cut or gat or something. Bengali has an a sound. Bengali dako, dake. This is an a sound. What is the last verse?
Bhakati Vinod Dake.
Bhakati Vinoda Dake. Gora Sampa. So Dake it has, but not Sanskrit, no a sound. Okay? So that's the alphabet. Any questions about the alphabet? Like I said, for this audience, it should be pretty clear. My main point was not to teach you the alphabet, but to help you appreciate just how significant this alphabet is and how scientific it is and how easy it is. It looks like a lot of letters, but frankly, what you see is what you get, right? So you have 46 letters, that's the number of sounds you have, and that makes it pretty easy to learn. Okay? The nasal sounds are probably the sounds that are lost most commonly in contemporary Indian languages. Even if you speak an Indian language, you're likely not to be able to hear the difference, or to say the difference between nya and nga and na and na. Right? All of them nya, nga, nya, nga, nya, nga, na, na, ma. Right? All different nasal sounds pronounced in different parts of the mouth. Okay? Okay. So that's that. We don't dwell further on the alphabet. Okay.
Now these are all the 46 letters.
We're missing the sha, the sa, and all that.
Is it missing?
The sa, ha,
Oh yeah. Okay. So there's if you keep flipping through it, they're all given here somewhere. Oh, on page 9, I think you have them all in the exercises section.
Yeah, that one is, that's that was sure.
The consonants are all Vishnu Janas, right? They're Vaishnavas. So when two consonants come together, like ka and ra, kra, together, they're called sanyukta in Sanskrit, sanyuktakshara, joint consonants. Jiva Goswami calls them satsanga, joint consonants. Because two devotees come together, what do you get? Satsanga. That's really nice. So his sutras have double meanings. Samsarasya haraschiti, Jiva Goswami says. It means after, in a certain context, at the end of a certain word, the ending chi is haras, is taken away. Or in the presence of chi, the ending of a word, haras, is taken away. Samsarasya haraschiti, the grammatical rule. But it also means when there is the rise of transcendental knowledge, chit, then the cycle of samsara is taken away, haras. So two meanings for the same sutra he gives. Okay, so those are the syllables. Now, the key thing in good pronunciation, when you actually put these together in words, is two things. One is never ever blur the difference between long and short vowels. Okay? If anything, exaggerate the length of the long vowels. The long vowels are meant to be held twice as long. They're meant to take twice as long. And when we talk about verses and their metrical patterns, the most important thing is you'll want to hear the rhythm, the beat. And if the timing is off, you can't hear the rhythm. In order to keep the timing right, we need to know the value of different syllables. So when you see an ah, make sure you pronounce it nice and long as ah. E as E, that we don't swallow it up. Okay, we don't swallow it up. Long vowels take double time. Double consonants take double time. Okay, not single time. So M-A-T-T-A, matta. Right? It's two T's, twice as long, not mata. Matta. Right? Matta parataram nanya. Right? Very crucial to create the rhythm that's present. Okay? Double consonants, double time. Long vowels and short vowels, the difference should be exaggerated. And finally, the difference between aspiration and non-aspiration, between ka and ka, between cha and cha, exaggerate that difference. And then your Sanskrit will sound very sweet. If you just follow those few basic rules, then the recitation becomes rhythmic. It also becomes very pleasing to hear. Exaggerate the difference between long and short vowels, exaggerate the difference between aspiration and non-aspiration, and finally, double consonants get double time. Okay? So H-A-P-P-Y, happy. Right? I am happy. Double P, double time. Okay? Matta parataram nanya. We'll see practical applications of this when we actually practice. Okay? All right. So, what time are we closing? I forget. Aarti is at 7. Okay. And then we restart at 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so now let's introduce verses so we can get straight to the heart of the matter here. Okay, everyone's good with the sounds themselves, yes? Alphabets. If you're not, don't be afraid to ask. Yes.
While chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? So many people chant as Hare Krishna. So it is, how do we, should we say kru or kri or kra and a?
Yes, that's a great question. In fact, there's a whole morning walk conversation about this between Prabhupada and who was Prabhupada's favorite morning walk partner in Bombay, Juhu Beach?
Dr. Patel.
Dr. Patel, yeah. There's a whole morning walk conversation about this. Dr. Patel, as a Gujarati, he said Krishna. And at one point, Prabhupada genuinely becomes confused. And he said, who is this Krishna? And he said, Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna. And then Prabhupada said, Krishna, okay. And then he said, no, it is Krishna. And then Prabhupada says, Krishna. And then for a few minutes they discuss, is it Krishna or Krishna? Or is it Kishan? And then at the end of the conversation, Prabhupada says, anyway, Bhavagrahi Jana. Krishna knows who is calling him. These days, Krishna is incorrect, Krushna is also incorrect. This is neither Ri nor Ru. In Hindi they say Ri, but the difference is not between E and E because we already have E separately. The sound is actually R. It's a vowel sound. So it's Krishna. Your tongue rolls from the K to the Sha over the R. Krishna. Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Not kru, right?
Not true.
Because in India, in Maharashtra, it's called kru.
Yes.
Therefore that Patel was saying it is Krishna.
Yes. In Western India, Gujarat, Maharashtra, this area is often Kru. It is there. So different people do different ways. In some parts of India, it changes a lot. Krishna is actually a very hard word to pronounce correctly. There na also is a difficult na. It's a retroflex. It's like ta, na. Krishna. It's there, not Krishna. It's not out here. Krishna. Not Krishna. Krishna.
But it is Krishna or Krishna. Krishna is the name of the
Okay, so that was the second question. So the Ri-Ru thing, Then the at the end. Now, one of the most common things with North Indian languages, and I'm not familiar with South Indian enough to say, but the North Indian languages all eat up the final
Yeah.
So, Krishna, or Govind, or
Yes.
Gopal, right? Now, this is, for Indians, this is one of the biggest pitfalls in trying to recite Sanskrit verses, is that we'll eat up the last A. And when that happens, the whole verse is messed up. Because that is present, it needs to be valued. It's not Krishna, long but if you're properly pronouncing it, the distinction between and should be very clear. So Krishna, it's Krishna. Okay, short not Krishna. Krishna is a name for Draupadi. Krishna, Krishna, like that. Vasudev, Vasudev. So, but the final must be pronounced. We should not swallow the final in any situation. Gopala, Gaura, Gauranga, Chaitanya, that is always there. It's embedded in the letter itself, and it must be pronounced in the Sanskrit. You can't get rid of it.
Sometimes very subtle,
Rama.
like Rama. Like here in Prabhupada, if you hear, you have to listen carefully to hear that Rama.
Yes, but
Rama,
Prabhupada would
Rama.
often do with using Bengali pronunciation, right? And Bengali pronunciation also removes the in many situations, or often it changes the into an O sound, right? So our habit of doing Ramo, Ramo, O, that O sound comes from Prabhupada. It comes from our listening to the Bengali method of pronouncing the sounds there. Our habit of saying Prasadam, for example, is a Bengali habit. The Sanskrit is prasada, sa, but in Bengali it becomes sha, because the sa's the sa sound is there, but only in special circumstances. Before before ta, then you have sa. Otherwise, it's always sha.
So how do you say Rama?
So Rama, Rama, just simple Ra and then Ma. Rama is easy. It's a very easy word to
But
pronounce.
after Ma there is a
Yes. After the Ma, there's Rama. But one thing I always tell devotees is that part of the Bhavagrahi Janardana is don't mess up your chanting because of this. You practice on all the other verses. If you're in your japa, it comes naturally, fine. Otherwise, if you sit there trying to go Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, it'll just mess up. You'll be more conscious of your tongue and less conscious of Krishna while you're chanting it. So specifically with Krishna's name, Prabhupada says Bhavagrahi Janardana. That's a proper application of Bhavagrahi. And in fact, in Braj, everyone calls him Kana anyway, right? Kanaiya, Kana, Lal. This is all, it's with Krishna, it's okay, Krishna understands. But in recitation of verses, we can be careful. But don't mess up your japa using this. Okay? After we come back from Aarti, what we can do is dive into the verses themselves. I'll talk about what is meter and how to find metrical pattern, and then show you how the different verses are recited. Okay? Thank you all so much, and we'll see you in half an hour. Mala Kore Jhala Mala. It's describing Mahaprabhu that Bahu Koti Chandra Jini Vadana Ujwala. His face is shining, it's radiant. Bahu Koti, like many tens of millions of moons. Bahu Koti Chandra Jini, their rays, it is shining. Vadana Jwala, Gala Deshe Vanamala. On the region of his chest, he has a garland of forest flowers, just like today. Carnations grow in the forest, I think. Gala Deshe Vanamala, Kore Jhalamala. And because he's also dancing, it's glittering or it's moving as he's dancing itself. But the song sets up the whole setting, it creates the mood, and it has deep import. So much meaning is there. Think about it, as you're singing, Arati Korena Brahma Adi Deva Gane. That Arati is being done by Lord Brahma and all the other Devas. So you see, okay, someone is doing Arati here, right, and all the devotees are singing. Means these are very special souls here, right, as good as the Devas, as good as the demigods. And our mood towards the devotee community, towards the other devotees changes. We realize, these are very special souls here. If Brahma is doing the Arati, then whoever this devotee is doing the Arati, she must be so special. And if all the Devas are singing along and doing Kirtan, then everyone who's here must be of the same quality, right? Otherwise, how can you have the opportunity to worship Gauranga Mahaprabhu like this in the evening. So meditating like this on each one of the verses as we're singing, it can help us in our Krishna consciousness in so many ways, in our relationship with the Lord, but also in our relationship with the devotees as well. So much depth of meaning is there in each verse. And our Krishna consciousness can easily double if we just take what we do anyway and we do it with meaning. We don't have to do a whole lot of extra prayers and memorize 100 new verses. Just what we do anyway, we do it with meaning. You find so much your Krishna consciousness can increase like that. So I strongly encourage you that if there's only one thing you take away from this Sanskrit seminar, is to find more meaning and value in the verses and mantras that we already chant as devotees. These verses are so special. Means some of India's greatest poets have written these verses. It is a fact that our sampradaya is not very old. It's only 500 years old. Actually it comes from Krishna from the beginning, but in the form of receiving from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago, right? So in 500 years, our sampradaya has seen more Sanskrit scholars, Bengali poets, more learned people than practically any sampradaya we know of in the compact amount of time. These are some of the finest poets, both in Sanskrit and Bengali, in the history of India, in the history of the world. And this is not just me speaking, but people who study history, academics and so on recognize this fact. It's a very special tradition. So the poetry we've been given to sing, Gurvashtaka, Mishad Goswami Ashtaka, this Gora Arti in the evenings, Tulasi Puja, these are not ordinary songs. They're not nursery rhymes. They're really something quite special. And so there's all the depth of meaning, all the advancement that we want is found right there in those verses. So I encourage you to go deeper into it, to chant every verse with meaning. And some years ago, I wrote this article on the meaning of the Gurvashtakam. So it should be in Vedabase. If you have the latest version of the Vedabase, you can look it up. But like that, you can read that and see, and then like that, you try to dig your own way through the verses. It means everyone should understand the basic meaning of each song we sing, and then also invest it with your own meaning. You should feel every verse as you sing it. What does it mean? What is the realization that you get from each one of those verses? And you'll see that the same activity becomes twice as pleasurable. It becomes twice as amazing. You'll never get bored of spiritual life. So anyway, that was just something from that beautiful Gora Arti that we all did together. Okay, so back to the pronunciation here. Now, Sanskrit verses are these Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. They're all written in verse, and verse means something with a metrical pattern, with a meter. And a meter is essentially a meter is a pattern of long and short syllables that creates a certain rhythm. It creates a certain beat to it that gives a special feel to whatever you're reading. So in English you have verses with meters. In Sanskrit you have verses with meters. So we all know this intuitively. If you've heard the Brahma Samhita prayers, for example, then you know there's a certain rhythm to it that's very beautiful, right? Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabhira vipalayantam lakshmi sahasra shata sambrahma sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Now if you try doing that with Nam Namakari Bahudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Krita Niyamita Smaranena Kala. Now you try doing that with Trinadapi Suni Chena Taro. It doesn't work, right? There's something goes wrong. Or you try it with Janma Dyasyayaton Bhayadi Tarata Chateshva Vidyaswarar. It doesn't work. You can't take anything and put it into that, right? We understand this intuitively, but there's a reason behind that. which is the basis of the pattern that's actually there in the Sanskrit. That pattern is composed of long and short syllables, or heavy and light syllables. Okay? So in Sanskrit, these are called guru and laghu. Which one is heavy, guru or laghu? Guru, right? This is the meaning of the word guru, is heavy. And laghu is light or small. Okay? So guru and heavy, and laghu. Now, what makes a syllable guru? A syllable is guru. Okay, first, what is a syllable? Okay? A syllable is any part of a word with a vowel in it. It makes a syllable. So, just like Rama, how many syllables? Two. Ra and Ma. Two vowels are there. A and A. Now, this is why if you eat the A at the end and say Ram, then you've got one syllable. So, in a place where you need two, you only have one, the meter will be messed up. So, Rama, two syllables. Krishna, two syllables. The Ri is a syllable, Ri, and A, Krishna. Shyama Sundara, Shyama Sundara. 5 syllables, right? So, depending on the number of vowels, you can count all the vowels. You have the list of 10 or more than 10. You count all the vowels, you get the number of syllables, okay? Now, each syllable, each little cluster of consonants and vowels together, sha, ma, sun, da, ra, is either guru or laghu, depending on the type of syllable it is. So, if it's guru, if it's any one of these things, it becomes guru. Okay, what makes something guru? First of all, if it has a long vowel to it, it becomes guru. What are the long vowels? A, I, U, Ri, E, I, O, O. Okay? Practically all of them, except for A, I, U, Ri, and U, which is rare. Besides them, they're all long. Okay? So if there's any long vowel, it becomes guru, heavy. Okay, so this is the conditions for being guru. A long vowel, or if the vowel is followed by a double consonant, a satsanga, a sangyuktaksha, a double consonant. Okay, so I'll give you an example in just a minute. Okay, a double consonant. And then the third instance is if that vowel is followed by an anuswara, an M dot, or an H dot. Okay? Or these two special sounds, which are not quite consonants and not quite vowels. They're in their own category. It's like this. This sound or this sound. Then it becomes long or guru, heavy. Okay? So if any one of these three conditions are present, a long vowel or the vowel is followed by a double consonant. So the vowel could be short, but after it is a double consonant, or the vowel is followed by an anuswara or visarga, an or a, then it becomes guru. It becomes a heavy consonant. And otherwise, it's a laghu. If none of these are present, it's going to be laghu. Okay? So let me give you one word example and then I'll give you a longer example. With Krishna, okay, 2 syllables. Krishna.
What about the half? Sure. आधा जो है सरकोण का जिस कृष्ण में, so you count that, or it's like 2.5?
Yes, so this is exactly what we'll see here. Okay, so Krishna, this is the first vowel is a r sound, right? Ri, this sound. Is it long or short? It's short, right? It's not ri, it's not Krishna, it's Krishna. Okay, it's short. So this condition is not satisfied. It's not a long vowel, but after the ri, there's 2 consonants, sha and na, right? The sha and the na, it's a double consonant. Therefore, this becomes guru. Okay, and we'll mark the guru with a long line. The next syllable is na. Okay, is it a short vowel or a long vowel? Short vowel. So not the first category isn't satisfied. Does it have a double consonant afterwards? No, we don't know what comes afterwards because I only put one word, so it's not a double consonant. Is it followed by ng or h there? No. So this one is going to be laghu. And we will mark laghu with that little U sign. Okay, guru, laghu, like that. Okay. With Rama, you have a similar situation. Rama. The first syllable has a long vowel to it. Ra. Okay, so that's guru. This condition satisfied. The second syllable ma, it's not long, it's short. No double consonant afterwards. No or h. So it's laghu. Now, if I were to put an h after it, Rama, like that, then it would become guru. It would become long. Okay? So, guru, laghu. Now, in a Sanskrit verse, the pattern of guru and laghu syllables is predefined. And the poet has to fit the words that he or she wants to say into that pattern of long and short syllables. Okay? So every verse, Chintamani prakara satmasukalpa vriksha. What you're listening to there, this is the rhythm of long and short syllables. Chintamani, so you have two long and then two short. Chintamani, right? So actually two long, one short, and then one long. So there's a pattern like that for every type of verse that there is. Let me demonstrate here what the pattern is for this verse from Brahma Samhita. Okay? We're going to put this on the board and do a quick scanning, it's called. We're going to scan it for the different now. Okay, so first two lines. Chintamani prakara satma sukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabhir abhipalayantam. Surabhir, I think it's a long A. Surabhir, anyway, Surabhir. Okay, so let's scan this for guru and laghu. Hopefully you've written it down somewhere because we had to flip the page. But the first syllable, chint, is guru or laghu? It has a short vowel, right? But what was the next condition? Double consonant. Is there a double consonant afterwards? Yes. You have an N and a T. So it is guru. Okay, so let's mark it like that. Ta, chinta. Ta is guru or laghu? Guru, because it has a long vowel, right? Ma is guru or laghu? Laghu. It has a short vowel, Is it followed by a double consonant? No, it's got just a na. So it's laghu. Ni is guru or laghu? It has a short vowel, yes? Is it followed by a double consonant? Yes. Pa and ra. Okay? So the word, next word doesn't matter. Okay? It can be the next word. this dash is just for convenience. Sanskrit doesn't have any dashes. So Chintamani, it is short vowel, but it's followed by a double consonant, P and R. Okay, so this is going to be Guru. Then Prakara. Pra is Guru or Lagu? Is what? Short, right? And what follows it? What's before it makes no difference. What follows it? Double or single consonant? Single. So it's got to be Lagu. Ka, Lagu. Ra, Lagu. Sat, Guru. Short A, but double consonant afterwards, right? Sat. Ma is short. Lagu, short. Su is Lagu. Ka is Guru, because there's a double consonant, La and Pa. Pa is? Okay, so this is the real test. Who thinks it's Lagu?
That re is a
No one's
vowel.
willing to commit.
I think it's a lagu because the re is a vowel.
So, is it a long or short vowel? Short vowel. Okay, so that condition. Then is it followed by a single consonant or double? Single. It has the V and the R with the dot is a vowel. Ri. Okay? Ri. We went through the alphabet pretty quickly, but Ri is, there's a consonant Ra. There's a consonant Vyanjan Ra. But there is a vowel Swara which is also Ri. And that's R with a dot. Okay, like Krishna. So this is a vowel, that's a single consonant. So this is Lagu. Then Vri is Guru, because you have Ka and Sha. Sha. Guru. And this one? Lagu. The last one of the line doesn't really matter. Okay? Because you pause at the end of the line anyway. So it makes little difference. Okay. Now, next one, this should go a little faster. Okay? We made a pattern here. Okay? Then, this one, first one, Guru, La, because it's got the double, Ksha, A, Laksha, Guru, Vri is Lagu, Te is Guru. Remember, A is always long. Okay? Te. Shu is Lagu. Okay. Next one. Okay, so some of you are doing this too fast, which means you've discovered that the top and the bottom are going to be the same. Okay. So I'm not going to waste the time. If you were to do this, well, we can just do it real quick. So, Ra, Ki. That's why that long I was crucial. I was debating, is it long or short? If it were short, then it would be Lagu, right? And the whole thing would be messed up, the pattern. In Sanskrit is called apavarga, the denial of the pa letters. Okay? So the alphabet itself is full of meaning. So dharmasya pavargasya, there's a verse in Bhagavatam, that dharma is meant for apavarga, is meant to release us from all the pas in this world. Okay? So a pa is a single letter. A, P, oops, I forgot that. Pa, La, Yang, okay, and then it doesn't really matter. Okay? Now notice the pattern here. Long, long, short, long. Long, long, short, long. Short, 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 short. It's identical. In fact, if we did this for all 4 lines, the pattern would be exactly the same. This pattern of syllables has a specific name for it. This metrical pattern in Sanskrit is called Vasanta Tilaka. Vasanta means spring, Tilaka means ornament, decoration. So it's the ornament of spring. And for the poet, it has a specific quality to it. You notice this pattern has a very light and airy and spring-like feel to it. Alola Chandra Kala Sadvana Malya Vamshi Ratnangadam Pranaya Keli Kala Vilasam Shyamam Tribhanga Lalita Niyata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam. You can sing it so nicely, right? It has very flowing feel to it. Another very common meter that we use is called Shardula Vikriditam, which means the play of a tiger. Shardula is a tiger, Vikriditam means play. And this is another common one that we use for things like Shad Goswami Ashtika, for the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishnot Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro Premamritam Bho Nidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito. You hear the tiger playing? It's playful. It's definitely very light, but it has a very heavy step to it. Like someone very powerful it's playing. It's not a bird flitting around. It's a tiger. Janmadhyasya yatonvaya ditaratas charteshva bhignya swara. You can dance to it. And it's got a set number of syllables, right? Each one has a set number of syllables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 per line. And that one has more syllables to it. Krishnot Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro. How much was that? Less. 12 syllables. No, it doesn't end. It didn't finish that. Premam Ritam Bho Nidhi. That's 19. 19?
Yeah.
So 19 syllables, much longer meter, and a different kind of feel to it, different rhythm to it. So you'll find often in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, when the mood changes of the speaker, the poet, then the metrical pattern also changes. In Bhagavad Gita, when does the metrical pattern change? You have a very short meter. Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveta, Yuyutsavaha, Mamaka, Pandavaschaiva, Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Simple, short. When does it become longer? 11th. One of the places is in 11th chapter, right? 11th chapter. Does the mood change? What happens there?
Universal form.
Universal form. It's a big mood shift, right? So it's very clear that that mood is being signaled by both Sanjay and Arjun by longer meters, because the short meters cannot contain the mood that he's portraying. You know, Deva Deva Jagatpate, and this is more brilliant than 10,000 suns. It's just not, you can't contain it in that short meter, so it's signaled with a longer meter. There's another place in Gita where it switches to a longer meter.
15 chapter.
Yes, 15th chapter. Where's the first place it switches though? You remember? First time it changes in Bhagavad Gita, the metrical pattern.
2.7.
Chapter 2.
2.7.
Yes. So actually I think it changes maybe a verse or two before that. But basically, that's the point where Arjuna's grief is really reaching a breaking point. And that's when he's realizing he has to do something. So that beautiful verse where he surrenders to Krishna. Karpanya dosho pahatasvabhava prichhami tvam dharma samudha cheta yakshveyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadhiman tvam prapanna. It's a meter called Trishtubh is the general category. And it's a different metrical pattern that signals Arjuna's real angst and his desire to surrender to the Lord. So a change in metrical pattern is always signaling something significant happening in the verses, in the meters. If you get to the Gopi Gita, for example, that's a very, very special section of Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam rolls out a special meter that is not found anywhere before that. It's the Raja Hamsi meter. Raja means king, Hamsi means swan. It's the king of swans, Raja Hamsi. And it has that famous, Bhakti Charu Maharaj sings it in that beautiful melody. Tavakathamritam tapta jivanam kavipiriditam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatatam Bhuvi ye Bhurirajana. Can you see the swan moving? This is how swan move. It's left, right, and slow, nice and slow. It's not a fast dancing meter like the Shardula Vikriditam is. One of my favorite meters is called Manda Kranta. And Manda Kranta is a very long and slow and beautiful meter. Manda means slow, Kranta means walking. So the meter means ambling along. And it's kind of like the way a river flows, just slow, slow. And then occasionally it'll go just a little fast as it goes down a couple of rocks, and then it'll go slow again. Manda Kranta. And this is King Kulashekara uses it in his Mukundamala a couple of times. Here's an example. Naham vande tava charanayor dvandvamadvandvaheto. Naham vande tava charanayor dvandvamadvandvaheto. Kumbhi pakam gurumapi hare narakam napanetam. Kumbhi pakam gurumapi hare narakam napanetum. Ramya Rama mridutanulata nandanena pirantum. Ramya Rama mridutanulata nandanena pirantum. Bhave bhave hridaya bhavane bhavayeyam bhavantam. Bhave bhave hridaya bhavane bhavayeyam bhavantam. I think so. Yeah. So the beauty of the Manda Kranta is a beautiful meter. Its beauty is the first four syllables are very nice and long. Naham Vande, 4 long syllables. Naham Vande, then a series of short ones. Tava Charanayor, Dvandvama Dvandvaheto, then it goes slow again. Kumbhi Pakam Kurumapi Hare Narakam Napanetum. Like that. Beautiful, beautiful verses. Maharaj Kulashekara is praying to Krishna that I'm not worshipping your lotus feet for liberation, nor for enjoyment in the heavenly planets, nor for the enjoyment with beautiful women from heaven. None of that I'm interested in. Bhave bhave hridaya bhavane bhavayeyam bhavantam. This verse is extraordinary. He's using every word except for one in that last line. All comes from the same verb in Sanskrit, bhu or bhavati, which means to be. Bhave, bhave, hridaya bhavane, bhavayeyam bhavantam. And they each mean something different. Bhave, bhave, birth after birth. Hridaya bhavane, in the palace of my heart, bhavana. Bhavayeyam bhavantam. May you, bhavantam, bhavayeyam, always stay. Right? And he uses the same word to capture those different meanings. Bhave, bhave, hridaya. Gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful verse. And it's in this meter, Manda Kranta. So there are maybe a dozen meters that are frequently used in Sanskrit. Not more than that. Beyond that, there are hundreds of such meters, but most of them are very rarely seen. The ones that we encounter, probably even less than a dozen. I would say about half a dozen that we get regularly. And if you're able to recognize what the meter is, and you learn just one melody per meter, then you can recite any verse that there is to recite. Okay? Look in your handout to so on the top of the handout, the front side, it says Appendix 3. Appendix 3, classical meters. It's like the third sheet of paper, no, more than that.
Page 311.
Yeah, fifth sheet of paper, it says Appendix 3 on the left side, page 311 on the right side. You found it? Okay, so we did the Guru, Lagu, Lagu, Guru, we did that, right? So here are the patterns for each one of them, the most well-known ones. Let's see. Vasanta Tilaka. So on the right side of the page, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one down, you will see Vasanta Tilaka. You see it? Found it? On the right hand side of the page, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. You will see Vasanta Tilaka, it's listed. you see that pattern. Now compare the pattern to what we wrote on the board. Right? It should be the same thing. 2 longs, 1 short, long, short, 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 long, short, short, long, like that. Same pattern, exactly. The Shardura Vikreditam is the second from the last at the bottom. The play of the tiger, Krishno Kirtanagana. There's your meter. Short, 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 like that. 19 syllables, yes. 12 plus 7. And then my favorite, Manda Kranta, is the one right above that. You see the 4 long ones?
Yeah.
Naham Vande, those are your 4 long ones. Tava Charanayor, that's your 5 short ones, followed by 1 long one. And that's what gives it its really nice rhythm. Then you can have many of these other ones we're also familiar with. There's the Bhagavad Gita ones, Karpanya Dosho Pahata Swabhava, the longer ones in Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
So this is Indra Vajra and Upendra Vajra on the left hand side of the page down at the bottom. Indra Vajra sometimes and sometimes Upendra Vajra. They're very similar. Indra and Upendra. Upendra is the little brother of Indra. So they're very similar. Okay. So those are the longer ones.
And the regular ones too. Regular ones of the
Yeah, so that's the main one, okay? And the main one is the one we will spend the most time on and get the most practice with, because that's the one we run into most often. The standard one in Bhagavad Gita, and in and of itself, if we can just learn how to pronounce that smoothly, we're doing very well, okay? So we'll get to the short one. That's called Anushtup, and that's the top one, number 1 on the left-hand side. We'll get to that one in just a couple of minutes. So it's the simplest in some sense, and on another way, it's the most complicated because it's very open, it's variable. But first of all, these are the ones on the right-hand side. Those you should be, you'll know a few of them. There's that one also, Kadachit Kalindi Tata Vipinas, like that. So that one, Kadachit Kalindi, is, where did it go? Okay. Well, let me ask you, can you identify what meter that is, or is maybe that's too much to ask? Look at the first, just do the first word. Kadachit. Kadachit kalit. Kadachit is what? Just scan that word. Kadachit. First syllable ka. First syllable ka is guru or lagu? Okay, lagu. Kadachit. Okay, so ka is lagu, da is guru, chit is, it's followed by K. So T and K, kada chit, K, right? So it is guru. So it's laghu, guru, guru is the start. That should already identify it. Shikharini. Shikharini. Okay? Shikharini. Kadachit kalindi tata vipina sangita. And it's, yeah. So that one is kada. There's also the one from Brahma Samhita. What is it? Every step is a dance, every word is a song. Yeah. Which one is that? I think it's also Shikharini. Katha Ganam Natya. Also Shikharini. In the Shikshashtaka, you have different meters for many of the verses. So this is what makes chanting the Shikshashtaka such a challenge, because it's difficult to use one melody to sing it. Now, one thing to note is that melody is different from the meter. Okay, so I sang this one. We all sing it in this melody. Chintamani prakara sadma shukalpa vriksha. But you don't have to sing it in this melody, right? You can also do Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha Lakshavriteshu surabhirabhipalayantam Lakshmi sahasrashata sambramasevyamanam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Right? It's a different meter. It has the same. It's the same meter. It has a different melody to it. This Krishno kirtana gana nartana paro premamritambo nidhi Shardula vikriditam. We always sing it. Right? But you can sing it in a different melody, so long as you keep the same rhythm, the same meter. So just today, Madan Gopal Prabhu was singing in a different song. What was the melody?
Aradhyo Bhagavan Rajesh. The same. Aradhyo Bhagavan Rajesh Tanaya Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Varjenaya Kalpita.
So that sounds so different, right? And yet you can do that same thing and go Aradhyo Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam. See, so that I used the same melody for that one, and he used a completely different melody for it. Okay, so you're welcome to innovate with melody if you are musical. If you're like me, who is not at all musical, and I have great trouble remembering any tunes, even for the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then you find one melody that works per meter. You have one for Brahma Samhita. That everyone should know. It's pretty simple. Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha. I know that melody, right? So whenever I find a verse in Bhagavatam or anywhere that's this meter, this pattern, like that, then I just use that melody. I sing it like Brahma Samhita. And Krishnot Kirtana Gananat, Krishnot Kirtana Gananartana Paro. So common. Whenever I find a verse of that meter, Shardula Vikriditam, just use that. And it will fit. It will fit. If it's not fitting, when you try to sing it and you're stumbling and it's not fitting, is because you're pronouncing something wrong. You're eating up a syllable or you're adding a syllable where it shouldn't be. So go back to the verse and read it one syllable at a time. Chintamani prakarasa. And you'll realize, oh, I'm doing prakar sadmasu, and I'm eating the at the end of prakara. Okay, that's what I'm. Then it'll work. It will always work because no exceptions are allowed. Actually, exceptions occasionally happen, and you'll notice it immediately. Right, something will be wrong. But it happens rarely enough that if you find an exception, it's probably because you mispronounced it, not because it was an exception. Okay, so learn one melody for one type of verse and just use it, right? If for the Karpanya Dosho Pahata Swabhava type, that length, Indra Vajra, Upendra Vajra, if you find any verse, that's the second most common type, is Karpanya Dosho Pahata Swabhava Prichhami Tvam Dharma Samudachet. That's the second most common type of verse. Then you find that a verse of that style, learn one melody for it, and use it all the time. And it'll always work. The reason it'll always work is because this is so precisely defined. The poet has no freedom for how to use, for what to do with these syllables. It's actually really, really tough to write Sanskrit poetry for this reason. Because whatever you want to say, I mean, look at this. Imagine if you want to say something, and you come up with the words, you got to stick it into this somewhere. Okay? So, for example, we've got this meter here. And if you wanted to say you wanted to write a verse about Shyama Sundara. Okay? Whoops, ran out of space. Say you wanted to write a verse about Shyama Sundara. Let's scan Shyama Sundara really quick. What's the pattern you have here? Say you're from Central Jersey and you worship Radha Shyam Sundar and you want to write a beautiful verse for them. Okay? So you set out and you say Shyam Sundar is going to be there. So now Shya is Guru, Ma is Lagu, Sund is Guru, Da is Lagu, and Ra is Lagu. Okay? So you have a pattern of long, short, short. And you wanted to sing it like Brahma Samhita. So you wanted this metrical pattern. Where could you put the word Shyama Sundara in your verse? Could you start the verse with Shyama Sundara? No. It won't work, right? You need long and short. You have long and long here. Where would you put it? Long, short, and you've just run out of syllables. So it wouldn't work here. You'd get Shyama Sundara, and then you couldn't say Ra. Where could you put it?
Money.
Tamani.
So Guru, Lagu, Guru, Lagu, Lagu. There you go. So this right here, okay, there. That's the only spot in the verse where the word Shyama Sundara can go. Now, what's worse is you've got one syllable you got to do something with, right, at the beginning. Yeah. So do He, right? He Shyama Sundara Hare Raja Chitta Chaura, right? So you can get it, but you have to work at it, right? It's really tough. Now say you're from Boise, Idaho, and you wanted to write a verse on Banke Bihari. Banke Bihari. Where would you put it?
Second lesson. First.
You could put it.
Lakshawati. Same thing.
So there's a couple places where you could put it, right? Now look at this pattern here, okay? And look at, what if I wanted to write the verse in Mandakranta? Where would I put it? My favorite meter and my favorite deities. Okay? So my favorite meter is Mandakranta, my favorite deities are Radha, Banke Bihari, and Boise. So I wanted to do it. Where would I put it?
Sorry.
You can't, right? There is no place in that verse I can do Banke Bihari. So if I started a verse on Banke Bihari and then I come to the end of the line and go, I can't put Banke Bihari in the verse, right? I'm stuck. Right? It's tough. It's tough. And when we learn about sandhi and word forms, you realize that words like Shyama Sundara will change. The last syllable will change. Shyama Sundarasya or Shyama Sundaraya. Like Krishnaya Namaha, Shyama Sundaraya Namaha. Okay? Say I want to say that. Shyama Sundaraya Namaha. Then Shyama Sundara. Yeah. It becomes long, short, short. Where can I put that? Nowhere in this verse. If I want to say Shyama Sundaraya Namaha, I cannot do it here in this verse. Right? In other words, it is really tough to compose anything in a Sanskrit meter. Because you get what you want to say and it won't fit in the meter. And you get the meter you want and you can't fit your words into it. So which do you use? I was going to write about Shyama Sundara, but he doesn't fit in the meter. So forget him. Let's try some other deity. Right? Do you do that? Or do you say, I got to do Shyama Sundara, so let's find another meter? In which case you have to change the mood of what you're writing. It's difficult. But the expert poet can pull it off. The expert poet can say exactly what they want to say in exactly the meter that they want to do. But it takes a lot of work. My Sanskrit teacher in Oxford, in England, Professor Narasimhachari, he received the title of Ashu Kavishekara, which means he who could write verses extempore, on the spot. A meter like this, and I would tell him, sometimes I would go up to him and say, you know, today is Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day, and we're holding a little meal in honor of him. and can you please create some verses? And he would say, okay, give me 5 minutes. And 5 minutes later, he would come into the room with a beautiful ashtaka on Srila Prabhupada, 8 verses in a special meter describing him, glorifying him. One time I made some photocopies for him for a seminar, and when I gave him the photocopies, he thanked me in a beautiful Sanskrit verse. He could do this. And I asked him once, I said, what do you do first? Do you think of the meter first, and then come up with what you want to say? Or do you think of what you want to say and then find a meter to fit it? And he said, nah, Ravi, it doesn't work like this. He says, the words just come to you within a meter already set. Means the metrical patterns become so part of your system that you just think and talk, you hear your ideas in a metrical pattern, in a verse. And he was so good at this. He spent several months in Oxford. Twice he came. And on each occasion, he was really moved by the devotees and their practice of Krishna consciousness, especially the younger people. He said, you know, back home in India, we struggled to get the young people interested in Krishna. And the amazing thing about Srila Prabhupada, who he encountered for the first time when studying, when he visited Oxford, the amazing thing about Prabhupada is that he was able to inspire all of these young people to take to Krishna consciousness. And so without telling anyone, he picked out Prabhupada's biography from our library, and he read all 7 volumes of it. And was so deeply moved. Afterwards, I didn't know he was reading it. He came to me to tell me that he was doing this. And he said, you know, I'm so moved by Prabhupada's accomplishments and what he did, that before I leave Oxford this time, I'm going to write 100 verses on Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's Shatakam, 100 verses. And I was so excited and really happy. And I would go to him every week for our regular meetings, and I would say, so how many verses did you write? And he said, no, I didn't get around to it. And next week, how many verses? No, I didn't get around to it. And I thought, oh no, I hope it's not one of these Indian things where, yes, I'll do, and then it never happens, you know. But he said, look, don't worry, I told you I would do it, I would do it. One day, a few weeks before he left, he came to me really happy one morning. And he said, it was amazing. Last night I got inspiration, and I sat down and I wrote 60 verses all in one go. I said, I only have now 40 left, and I'll write those gradually. It was from that experience I realized that, you know, if you have any doubts that, oh, how could the Bhagavad Gita be spoken as a conversation? It's a conversation, but it looks like it's pre-planned. Someone sat there and thought about it. But Krishna and Arjuna were speaking like this. Or how could the sages, Maitreya Muni and Vidura, be speaking in these long, beautiful meters? You could see it. Even someone, he's now passed away, but he was living at that time, and he had that ability to create and write verses like that extempore. I'll give you one little story also about him, final, and I know we have to end at 8:30. But he said, you know, one of his titles, besides Ashruka Vishekara, was the title of Ashtavadhani. 8, one who can do 8 things at once. Ashtavadhani. Now you've heard of people who can play 8 chess games or 10 chess games or 100 chess games at the same time, multitasking. But this was a different type of Ashtavadhani. Okay? Basically, it was a Sanskrit version of it. 8 Sanskrit scholars would sit around you in a circle, and he, the student who was being tested, would sit in the middle. And the first Sanskrit Pandit would say, give me a verse describing Lord Ramachandra in Vasanta Tilaka meter. So he has to compose. But give me only 1 syllable at a time. So he gives 1 syllable. Now the Pandit, he tries to guess what the next syllable will be, and forbids that syllable, right? So if he goes first syllable, Ra, what's the next syllable going to be? Ma, okay? So he says, Ma nishiddha. Ma is forbidden. So whatever you composed in your head, you have to now recompose. Raja. Okay, Raja. Got that. Then next syllable. And like this, you have to do after the end of one line, as the teacher is constantly trying to trip you up. When you've got one line through, he says, okay, stop, that's enough. Then you go to the next person. The next person says, I want you to read from the ISKCON Purana, the story of Nala and Damayanti. Now, the ISKCON Purana is a way of saying, there's no ISKCON Purana. The Purana in the sky is just recite the story from your head in your own verses. Create those verses, but do it so fast that it looks like you're reading. So, Asid Raja Nalo Nama Virasena Sotobali. There was a king named Nala and so on, and he was a great, powerful king. Okay, after that's few verses of that, okay, enough. Then you go to the third person. The third person will compose a verse about the beauty of the autumn season on the Chennai beach, Madras beach, or whatever. Fourth one will talk to you in Sanskrit about local politics. The fifth one, like this, you'll go around, and when you come around to the first one, you have to remember where you were in that verse, what the second line, which letters were forbidden, etc., etc. The ISKCON Purana, you have to continue exactly where you left off. The Pandit who's quizzing you is only remembering one thing, so he knows exactly where you left off, right? You're remembering 8. That's 7 around you. The 8th person is sitting behind you, throwing flowers at your neck. And you have to count how many flowers hit you as you're doing all of this. This goes on for hours, and if you can accomplish it, then you receive the title of Ashtavadhani, one who can do 8 things at once. He accomplished this when he was 17 years old. I told him, this is amazing, you're such an amazing scholar in Sanskrit, I've never met anyone like you. And he used to say, no, Ravi, you should have seen my guru. This is nothing. He said, when I used to go to meet my guru, we would go to study some Shastra, say he wants to study Vedartha Sangraha by Ramanuja. So his guru would say, okay, what do you want to study today? And he said, I want to study Vedartha Sangraha. And he would say, okay, you have a copy of the book? And he said, yes. And he said, give it to me. And he would take the copy and he would flip through it while taught, how's your mother, how's your father, how are you all doing? And keep flipping through it. Then hand the book back to him and read and teach word for word from memory. He had the entire book memorized. He just needed to refresh his memory a little bit. He said he had all the major texts of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. He was part of the Sri Vaishnava tradition, all memorized like that. So when we hear stories in the scriptures of Shruti Dhara, of great sages who could recite this from memory, there was the great sage Vedanta Deshika, he wrote Paduka Sahasri, he wrote 1,000 verses in glorification of Lord Vishnu's sandals, his chappals, Paduka. 1,000 verses glorifying just the Lord's slippers. He did it in one night, right? One night. You hear all these stories, I assure you they're not mythology, they're not myth, right? Such people have existed even up to recently. I mean, I don't know how many are left in India today, but the generation's quickly passing. But such persons exist. And so reciting Bhagavad Gita in conversation was child's play for Krishna and Arjuna. It's actually very, very simple for them at that level. Or any of the gopis singing the Gopi Gita, they didn't sit for hours trying to compose, okay, this one here goes here, tava, tava. None of that. It's just, it flows, right? It just comes. These are great. The gopis may be simple devotees, but they're so learned, so knowledgeable in our comparison. Okay? So our plan for tomorrow is going to be, tomorrow's session is going to be the most practical of all of them. Okay? What we're going to do is look at the basic meter of Anushtup, and we're going to go around the room, and whoever's here and wants to, will practice reciting those verses. I will listen to your recitation and give you suggestions for how to improve or where things can get better, so that you get some practical experience reciting these verses and develop a little bit of confidence in understanding them. These short ones and then some of the longer ones as well. And you'll get an opportunity to do this as a group, and then I'll break you up into smaller groups and you can test each other in terms of recitation, okay? Even if we think we know how to recite these, you'll be surprised at how many little things get tripped up so quickly. So tomorrow we're going to do that in a very practical way. For this, today I wanted to show you how the meters work and give you some general tips. Tomorrow we're going to practice, and if there's time left, we'll do some other things with the Sanskrit language as well that will be helpful for your study. Okay? Tomorrow is 3 to 5 o'clock, 2 hours tomorrow, and then we've got the Sunday Peace class. The Sunday Peace class is going to be separate. So, okay?
Yes.
Thank you all very much.